Okay, guys, we are live. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday, isn't it? It's Wednesday night. I've got Keith at Eaton Ryan on Twitter as usual, and Jack Mac LFC in the house to have a little chat. A bit of breaking news today on both fronts, I suppose. There wasn't any football because we're in this terrible international break, as we all know. But there's been little bits of news, intriguing news. Of course, the big news today, although a lot of people knew about it about 6 months ago, about this news of Michaeledwards, that he'd a year left on his contract and he didn't look like he was going to sign it and stuff. That's going to happen. So he's going to be gone at the end of next season. The guru, the transfer guru, he's been absolutely brilliant for the club. We're going to have a little chat about him. And Julian Ward, who's coming in, the assistant, who's going to take up the role of sporting director at Liverpool. And also Stevie G, Liverpool club legend and captain, Rangers manager. It looks like Jack's going to fill us in here. He seems to be the man in the know that Stevie G could be the next Aston Villa manager. So Keith, we'll start with Keith. Michaeledwards, he has been unbelievable for this club, hasn't he?
He's been unbelievable, I suppose, as part of a team, you know. So like I suppose since Klopp arrived, the transfer market has absolutely been ours, I suppose, in terms of who we've brought in. Now I know there's a lot of people out there who are probably would like to have seen more and more investments, but listen, in terms of there's an argument there whether it's something we should even consider as a football club in terms of a sustainability approach, in terms of money in, money out, and getting the best players and getting trophies at the end of that kind of that work. It's probably impossible for you to find any other club in Europe that would have delivered the same amount of success off the same budget. I don't think there can't be one, to be honest with you.
I don't think there is.
I think the hardest league to win is the Premier League, because of the competition, because of the money that's in there. And obviously, the hardest overall competition to win is the Champions League. And within, I suppose, 5 years, we've won both. We've been to two finals. We've been very close. We're so close. We could have literally had two Champions Leagues in that space of time with a little bit more luck. So for that, he's been instrumental, I suppose, in delivering that success. He's not on his own. He's part of a team, with Klopp and with the management and with the execs within Liverpool Football Club. But you have to say he's been absolutely instrumental, I suppose, in delivering that. And all you can basically do is say, listen, thank you for your service, and we wish you all the very best in whatever you want to do next. Personally, I don't think it's something that we massively need to be afraid of. I think it's natural. I think all clubs, and I think reading between the lines, I think it's probably something we've been prepared for a period of time. And you'd like to think that the accession, I suppose, or the kind of promotion of somebody into that particular position has been done in a very well staged, managed way, which appears to be the case. But listen, who knows? And nobody knows going forward. He could be better than Michaeledwards, right? He could be, from my perspective, and I tweeted about it earlier on very flippantly, if he was just absolutely fucking batshit crazy, threw a load of money, signed a load of players, I'd be perfectly all right with that.
I can't see that now. But I'll tell you what,
and throw the model out the window, I'd be fucking delighted with that. But that's not going to be the case. He'll fall into place in terms of the way the model is, and that's it. But listen, it's like anything else. If anybody is to move on from a very successful period with a club, you're always going to be, I suppose, a little bit sad about that. But you'll always kind of say, well, listen, thank you very much for your service. You've done an absolutely stand-up job, and all the very best for the future.
Yeah, and I mean, he's only 42. It really makes me look old now. I say 40 fucking two. What he's already done, and what he's already done, and it's 40. But as Keith says, Jack, I mean, it's not only everybody looks at the enigma, which is Michaeledwards, because he likes staying in behind. He doesn't go out front and centre. He hides in behind, the stands and stuff. You rarely see him, to be fair. There's only a few bloody photographs of him. It's hard to make a thumbnail with bleeding Michaeledwards. But there's an actual team behind him. Julian Ward, of course, was the assistant. He was made assistant last year. He was the man. He was involved, I think, with scouting and stuff with the likes of Fallows and Hunter, Barry Hunter, of course, who were the two chief scouts. And then, of course, you have Mike Gordon in the background. But there's also there's other guys there, analysts, and it's a bloody it's scientific now. It's like a whole science class running Liverpool's transfer committee. It's not only him. Let's be real. Plus, it's Klopp. I mean, it all comes down to Klopp as well. They'll throw players at Klopp and say, right, all the metrics match up, all the equations add up to being the price. The running, the age, everything is family.
It's not just the buying of players. It's the management of existing players on the squad. It's how they're looked after when they go out on loan. It's how we sell on players. It's how we manage players. It's how we look after players. There's a huge amount more that goes on behind the scenes outside of just signing players. Listen, signing players is obviously probably the biggest element of all of that, but it's not just that. There's a lot more stuff that goes into that. That's why it has to be a team of people rather than just one individual. And like most very successful organizations, whatever he has put in place in terms of his processes, in terms of how we do things, that's not going to go with him. All right. I'd like to think that, that's going to be followed through with whoever steps into his place. So whatever we've got from him, it follows through, and you'd like to think that maybe whoever comes in next might be able to improve upon that, or maybe bring their own flavor to how we do things. But he's certainly been ahead of his game for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and that's why he's so sought after.
No, but
it's a loss.
It's got to be a loss, no matter what way you look at it. It's a loss. I mean, but that guy, Julian Ward, I think he was involved with the scouts and involved with stuff like that, something like that, wasn't he? He was involved, the manager of loans and stuff like that for loan players, keeping an eye on the players that are out on loan, making sure they're okay and stuff like that. So he's been in behind Edwards for the last year, and he's another year now of training in behind Edwards. So I'm sure we'll be okay. We'll be okay. It's not as big a deal as people are making it out. Well, I hope it isn't going to be as big a deal as people are making out.
He's as Keith's alluded to there, Dave, and everyone in chat. He's been there for 10 years. As he said, like the what he's implemented in those 10 years will be a blueprint, not just for Ward who's coming in, but for the next 10 years after that. Given how good his position was at the football club and how integral he is to the fabric, if you want to believe, he wants to go out with a bang, Edwards. And I tell you, if he wants to go out and sign a big marquee player to end his Liverpool reign, I've seen rumours of him wanting to get a Jude Bellingham. But what a way to go out and if that is the case in the next couple of months, to bring a player of that quality to the club. And just from what he was saying, he sounds like an absolute sound fella. He's someone at the club that does his job properly, not like certain CEOs at different football clubs that hog the limelight and trying to speak behind managers' backs. Edwards knows his place in the football club, but he loves it. He was a massive Liverpool fan as well, and in the letter in which he penned today, speaking, he never expected, in his own words, to be in the position in which he found himself at the football club, and he's himself said it will set the club up. He won't just leave the club in a situation where the scraping around for bare bones in the transfer market. Said he'll be taking his laptop, sadly, because that's all got all the transfer targets on. But I'm pretty sure he'll leave Jürgen and the lads and the technical staff all in a good positive. And by the sounds of it, I'd not like him to go to an English club, but given how much Liverpool he loves the club, and I think he will go to possibly a Real Madrid.
Madrid, yeah. I heard Madrid were interested, and you hear Newcastle now, of course. And listen, anybody will want him. Let's be real. To be looking to say he got players. Not only did he get players in, the likes of the Coutinho deal, which was ridiculous. I think Barca are still trying to pay that bloody deal back. But even the likes of Solanke going, for what was it, 20 plus, Jordan Ibe going for 20, getting these players off Liverpool, Brewster, what was it, 20 plus million for all those three each, ridiculous things, that type of stuff. Now, it wasn't just him. I know it wasn't, but he's getting all the kudos, isn't he? He's getting all the plaudits for it. He probably has to do the sign-off deal for it, but But I'm not going to dwell on Edward.
Yeah,
Michael
well,
Edwards
just
too long.
before we just move off all that, right? So my only concern now at the moment, right, is since we've last won the league, okay, the amount of off the field shit that's had to be dealt with over the last 12 to 18 months has to be having some sort of a knock-on effect, to be honest with you. You know, it's not about the on-field, you know, as much as it was. It was injuries throughout, you know, last season. It was all about the injuries. You know, there's more injuries this year. You've got Edwards moving on. You've got Salah's contract. You've got, you know, talk about, you know, what's Klopp going to do at the end of 2024. Like there's a huge amount of, now this may not be absolutely filtering through to the players and the playing staff and the management, but when we were going for the league that time and after the Champions League, it was just all about the team, the performance, the system, the Trinity. And since we've won that league, I'm not getting that. You know, I'm not getting it's all about that, the fans, the management. There seems to be a huge amount of off the field shit that's coming into play, to be honest with you. And I'm sure it's distracting, and it almost feels like, you know, there's not a single-minded agenda in terms of everything else is boxed off, lads, and all you guys have to do is go ahead and win football matches. It feels to me like there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, which is distracting, and it feels like it's distracting somewhat, to be honest with you. Now, I'm not a doom and gloomer. I still think
that sounded a big doom and gloom there. What you just
no,
said.
to be honest with you, I still think we've got a fantastic side. But I'm just thinking, when you start realistically having to think about some of the shit we've been talking about over the last 12 months since, or 18 months, 24 months since we've won the league, there's been a lot of stuff that we're talking about that hasn't necessarily been about go forward football and we're all going in the right direction. There's been a lot of distractions, a lot of conversations about distractions. Whereas when we were going for the league, all we were talking about was the football, lads. We were just talking about the football and the performances. So, you know, I think we probably need to draw a line in the sand on a lot of this stuff. Edwards, draw a line in the sand, gone, done, dusted. Salah, draw a fucking line in the sand, contract signed, move on, right? We are where we are and we go forward as a team. And until we do that, there's a lot of shit floating around out there now that's distracting in my opinion.
No, I think he's right, Jack. And also, hopefully, I think Michael Edwards, his big contract, the last big one, probably will be the Salah contract, if he can get that over the line. But I know what Keith's talking about. We were waiting 30 years on the Premier League. We'd almost won it that year, only a point behind City. We should have probably won it. We didn't win it. We won the Champions League that year. But
well, it was never going to get
we were
better,
so
though.
Close, you know.
Yeah, it was never going to get us better than that, though, lads, was it? We had like a 90-plus odd season. Unless we got 105, 110 points throughout that season, there was always going to be that drop-off. And Keith's spot on, as always. Whoever is in charge of the next 5-stage year period at Liverpool, regardless if it's Klopp or whoever takes over him, and obviously the technical stuff, this Liverpool side is very much aging. And when you have an aging squad, that costs a lot of money. If you have to decide, FSG will be looking at it from a money point of view and a business, rightly so. It's they own the football club. They will be looking at their assets as the players. Can they move certain players on? As much as we all would love Mo to stay at the football club, they don't give two hoots about what us fans really feel. Because we've seen recent weeks and months over the years, they've made decisions that, frankly, were from their own beneficial factor, money-wise, money talks in football. But when that time does come, is Jurgen Klopp wanting to... He won't run away from Liverpool. But like we've seen at Dortmund, he had that shocking season. Dortmund weren't giving him money, and he jokes about it. Dortmund had a lot of money after he left. And he was like, why didn't I get that money? But he said, that's life. I moved on and I went to another club. But there will come a big period in the next 3 to 4 seasons that we will have to pass by some of these players. And we will have to come to realization. We'll have to start again. Obviously, the Trent, he's very young. There's certain players within this coming crop of Liverpool players that are very young and will stay at the football club for a long time, hopefully. But Mane, 30 odd, Salah will carry on playing at his peak level. But I think obviously Bobby plays a certain role within the system. Doesn't heavily rely on his pace, but his athleticism really as a player. There's a load of factors. James Milner, we've just been speaking about over the last 6 months, Gini Wijnaldum's influence on the football club. James Milner has probably got a bigger influence on Liverpool's midfield than Gini has in the last since he's been at the club. So
I just fear for everything if we get to a point in time, right, in January where we potentially miss lads for 6 games, right, and the whole won't be Champions League, but the whole league thing, the wheels come off that cart. And we get a couple of other injuries knocking around the same time, and we're bare bones going into at least 3, potentially 6 games. And we haven't strengthened, right? Now, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the chat and the fan base and everything else in around the club if that potentially happens? And you know what? The way the chat is coming out at the moment is that it is after Leeds, they're gone, right? Now that could change. It could absolutely change, but it does feel to me like that was always going to be the case, and it's a risk and it's a gamble. And there seems to be a huge amount of gambles over the last 24 months around the club, to be honest with you. So I just think there's a huge amount of noise or potential negative noise around the club at the moment that are made at the top level. Yeah. And at some point in time, that needs to be addressed. It really needs to be addressed. And there needs to be
Did you see the letter today? You read that letter, Jack, the Liverpool statement today, but it actually said, I noticed the first few lines it was saying about like club succession, as if to say, this is only the start of what's going to be happening in the next year or two. Did you not make that out on that?
But listen, they're going to say that.
Yeah, it's PR, isn't it?
It's PR. It's a spin.
Yeah.
But as you just said, there is decisions to be made, and maybe they're obviously working on them behind the scenes.
But some of those decisions should have been made in the summer, to be honest with you, irrespective of the environment or the situation or COVID or anything else. Some decisions should have been made in the summer. Now, listen, maybe stuff happens in January, but team players need to be bedded in. So. Oh, I don't know. I just think it just adds to. Listen, I'm positive. I'm glass half full. I'm always glass half full. I'm very thankful for where we are compared to where we were. I remember the 90s, right? I remember the 80s, and I remember the 90s, and I remember the 2000s, and I acknowledge and I appreciate where we are now, and I have to acknowledge the amount of hard work, the cleverness, and the really good decision making that has got us at this point in time. However, you cannot deny over the last 12 to 18 months, there's been more negative PR coming out since we've won the league than there has been positive PR coming out since we had the league. And we always seem to be scrambling. It's like,
Plus, Keith, listen, I know, I can mention pandemics and stuff like that. We know all about that. And it's such a bad, unlucky season we had last year. But I find with Liverpool over the last 3 or 4 seasons, especially when we were winning things, it's like a risk or reward for Liverpool. The squad is tight. Out of all the top, say, 6 teams, it's tight. We shouldn't, I think we are punching above our weight at times. We really were. Against the likes of City, Chelsea, even United, the money, the squads they have. We have been doing unbelievable. But it's so tight for Liverpool that if 1 or 2 things go wrong, the wheels start coming off because it's so bloody tight. Do you know what I mean, for Liverpool? And that's what happened last year. Yeah. That's what happened last year. Now, I'm not saying it happened this year, but it's Liverpool, where we are, as you said, we know all about the 90s. We know about the 90s and the 90s. I mean, it's dreamland. It is actually dreamland at the moment.
When it pays off, and it did pay off for those 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah.
When it paid off, everyone's looking at us kind of going, fucking wow, that they've done this, they've won that, they're going for this, they're going for that. They've spent fuck all, right? Which is great. However, it's not sustainable in the modern football world for you not to spend money. you know, for you not to spend money and for you not to strengthen where you need to strengthen. You know, like what the fuck were the lads thinking? Like if going into AFCON next year with our two main goal scorers being gone for 6 weeks, if you want to go win a league without,
and then I can understand you saying it's okay bringing in a top player in January, but it needs a few weeks to bed in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They need a month or two to bed in. The lads will be back in fucking the end of January and they'll be bed in. It'll be too fucking late.
That always comes down to the ambition of the owners, though, and it, lads, and everyone in chat. For me, if you look at Liverpool's owners, they're content with winning one league title since he's been here. Difference between City, Chelsea, and obviously United at the minute happy with content with their manager, and obviously the bigger clubs around Europe, the PSGs and that, they're wanting to dominate every single season. Yeah. There was two managers at the time when Jurgen did get appointed. It was either him or Ancelotti. Obviously, Klopp, we all wanted Klopp just because of obviously what he'd done for Dortmund, and it was written in the stars. Managers like Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, Sir Alex Ferguson, these type of managers, they don't come around very often. And when you've got them, you've got to back them heavily, or you've got to give them the best resources to do their job. And we all watched Jurgen in that interview round about just before January time. He was pleading publicly in a press conference to sign a centre-half. And then the last day of the transfer window, we went and got a Preston North End centre-half on loan who didn't play. Yeah, we didn't even hear from him, didn't even play a game. And then we loaned him out to Sheffield. And then we got a young Kabak who was struggling in the Bundesliga, and he's struggling in the Premier League now. So no disrespect to him, but we're Liverpool Football Club, everyone. We've just come off the back of winning the Premier League. We won the European Cup before that as well. So it frustrates me.
But Jack, this is where all this FSG out. It actually is trending today or something. I seen something on Twitter. It's always trending. It's always fucking trending. I'm not FSG in or out. I'm just saying I want the best for the club, as you two lads do as well.
Yeah, I think everyone does. Yeah,
we all do. But I can understand, letting say the likes of Genie go without bringing in a really top class replacement. Okay, you'd Elliot and Jones there, probably saying, "Oh, they'll fill in there," blah blah blah. But I think sometimes you have to spend you have to buy that little jigsaw piece because the jigsaw just doesn't look complete.
Newcastle,
you know what I mean?
Newcastle and New Boys, give them 5, 6, 7 years. They'll be above us just due to the sheer amount of money they've got us. Not in terms of history, but in terms of league position. If they can get it right and get it right properly, like City have done, it's going to be even more difficult to win the Premier League. Obviously, we can talk about the togetherness and obviously we can focus on ourselves, but it will be more difficult. United aren't always going to be as shit as they are. They will come back eventually.
Yeah.
They're a massive club. Tottenham have got Conte, world-class manager at the elite level. If he can get his house in order, he'll get them all whipped into shape. I want this, that and that. Arsenal, a couple of years off anyway, but they've got the facilities, the ambition, if they can get it right, but their owners are content. But that's why it's difficult. And obviously, I don't want to be sat here. I don't think any Liverpool fan wants to be sat here. If Jurgen Klopp is to retire from Liverpool Football Club or leave with just one league title and one Premier League, I think we'd be disappointed.
Yeah. My biggest, I suppose, not even concern.
Worry.
No, it's not even worry. To be honest with you, it's almost we were that far ahead, right? We were that far ahead in terms of the model we had, in terms of the way we played football, right? And do you know what? We just let it. We just let it. We just stuck. We just let it go. To be honest with you, we literally could have taken one or two players in to reinvigorize that side in terms of the pressing game and take some of the emphasis off some of those players to do that. Those players are out there around Europe, right? Because pressing is not just Liverpool, right? It's the way a lot of the good sides play football. So they're out there, right? There's players out there that we could have brought into our ecosystem and we could have said, right, lads, We're going to give you a little bit of a break. You're going to be pressing. You're going to be pressing, right? We could have brought different players in, you know, to reinvigorate that model of football. And we've chosen not to do that. We've chosen not to do that in a lot of different positions around the football club, to be honest with you. And it's like anything else. It's very hard to kind of just continuously get lads to do that. We've asked so much. We have asked so much, right? And they've delivered so much. But at some point in time, there's only so much you can do. You know, your performance drops off due to age, due to, you know, being successful, hitting the targets that you've set for yourself. There's a natural drop off there. And we haven't brought in the players of sufficient enough quality and skill and desire to put pressure on the lads that are there and to maybe step into that. We haven't done it. We just simply haven't done it. So from a position of absolute dominance and absolute power, we've let everybody else come in. We've let everybody else catch up to us, to be honest with you. And I don't think the desire or the wherewithal to actually rip it up and start again is there, to be honest with you. Because we've only got 3 seasons left, potentially 2 to 3 seasons left for club. Yeah. I think we're at a Rubicon moment with this club, with this group of players, with this management in terms of what we need to do, or what we want to do next. And I'm not telling you that they don't have it in mind or they're not planning towards something, but we do feel like we're in a period of time at the moment where it's passive.
Yeah.
You know, it's passive. It feels like we're going through the motions sometimes. I wasn't on your call last week. I didn't talk about the match the weekend. Won't do it now, but there's been warning signs there now since the start of the season.
Oh, yeah. But I'll tell you, look, we talked about this in the summertime when the players didn't come in. Everyone was screaming, FSG, wanting players. We were selling Genie, we didn't bring players. I made a point, and I've seen it on a few other Anfield Rap and a few other things, that when you don't replace players in a window, you only get 2 windows in a season. When you don't replace players and your team's aging, it's like a car. You buy a Merc every year, just depreciates in value, gets older. You don't replace in that window. It just makes more pressure on the next window. You know what I mean? If they would have brought in a decent midfielder or a striker that we were screaming out for as well, say this last summer, takes pressure off January. Now there's pressure on January, and I don't think they're going to do a huge amount in January, Keith. I really don't.
No.
Even if there's an AFCON, I just don't see it. You might see someone coming in, but it won't be a fucking £100 million player. That's a guarantee. So then it's next summer's the big one.
It's always next summer, isn't it?
That's what I mean.
It's the catchphrase, next summer. It's like, why not now? We've just wasted 12 months in the league. If we do drop off come this end due to injuries, i.e. not having enough. The fact that we started Harvey Elliott, Harvey Elliott is a class. He will be a world-class player if he does continue his development. But it was like, he's here to replace Ginny or a certain midfielder's position.
But he was never going to give us. He was never going to give us a full season of consistency. Yeah. He's too young for it. He was never going to do it.
No.
It's
even Jones. I mean, Jones was probably thrown in a year ahead of schedule. I mean, all these guys have a schedule basically, from academy all the way up saying, right, we might throw you in for maybe 10 games max. And obviously, Jones is starting like.
Harvey Elliott is a creative midfielder. Jones is a creative midfielder. Neither of those replaced Ginny, who's effectively, a disruptive midfielder and a ball carrier, right? All-rounder. And since we've lost Ginny, right, and we've spoken about this before, the game management has gone out the fucking window. We are not retaining the ball in midfield. We're not recycling the ball in midfield. We've gone back to basketball football before we had these players. We're almost back to Rodgers-style football, to be honest.
17, 18.
You score 2, you score 3, right? Or when Klopp joined the club for the first time. We haven't replaced that in terms of a ball-winning midfielder. Okay, Fabinho will do it, but he does it in a certain part of the pitch. He'll break it up and he'll give it. But he's not retaining the football. He's not getting on the ball. He's not shown for the ball in terms of give and go. And we were relying on Henderson to do it. And Henderson, I don't think, knows what he's doing this season, to be honest with you. He's all over the fucking shop, And then the left-hand side, we had Elliott at the start or whatever. And then we've got Jones coming in there. Maybe a little bit of Keita, maybe a little bit of this, maybe a little bit of that. It's all out the fucking window. We've now got Thiago coming back in. And the last 2 games, Thiago's come back in. All he's just done is give the ball away, right? Pretty much. Listen, he needs to get back into the fold and he needs to play his way back in. That's absolutely fine. He's probably trying a little bit too hard. But That's the situation that we're in now at the moment, and we haven't replaced that, to be honest with you. So is that Klopp literally, overestimating what we have in terms of our position and gambling and potentially losing again off the back of it? Is he putting his hand up saying, I fucking need players? And just saying no? I don't think that's the case, because he'd be gone.
He'd be out the door, wouldn't he?
I think if he wants a player, he gets it.
So we get to a point in time where he kind of goes, yeah, we need 4 or 5, and then we're building again. So I don't know. So next summer, January, maybe not January, we never do an awful lot. No, but like you're looking at 4 or 5 coming in next summer, to be honest with you.
That's what I said.
And that's another season gone, because you have to integrate 4 or 5.
We've lost 2 windows.
Yeah, and you have to integrate 4 or 5. And look at Chelsea. How long did it take Chelsea to get to the stage where they are when they went fucking ballistic a season and a half ago to bring these players in? You can't just bring them all in. It needs to be gradual introduction, and we're not doing that. So
United used to do it with Ferguson. They were
1 year.
Top.
At least one big one a year, and then another
class players that would actually step into the 11. So over, say, two transfers or 3 transfers, like you'd have 2 or 3 players there straight away, half a bleeding team nearly. Whereas Liverpool, the last 2 windows, you have to say they were wasted. I mean, January, he just said Ben Davies. Who's Ben Davies? Doesn't even play. He's at Sheffield United on loan. Come back to Norwich, and in the summer, you know what I mean.
And even Adrian before that as well, that season. When we won the Champions League, no disrespect, Adrian's done great that season after.
Exactly. That's why he's still there.
But like, it wasn't anyone noticeably massive. You get me?
No, but I think.
And if we're running the club to get the club into a situation where it's going to be the maximum amount that they can get for the club to flip it, just fucking flip it, lads. Just fucking flip it, and let's all get on with it. Well,
they gotta flip it soon, Keith. There's nothing to flip it. Has to be next, like January or
There's no one else to flip it to at 3 billion after Newcastle. I don't know who else is out there to flip it to at 3 billion.
Well, that's it.
So at this stage, if they're not going to flip it to somebody else, then it's maximising the amount of profit. It's a going concern, and it's all piecemeal shit. I've got fucking concerns that I didn't have.
You're
6 months ago.
This started off as a lovely, relaxing fucking pod. Now it's turning into, I wouldn't say FSG out pod, but it's not definitely FSG a concern. No. It's a concern.
No, it's not FSG out. There's no way I turn around and say FSG out, because I don't know who's out there in terms of a better custodian, to be honest with you. But exactly. And also, you don't want the club to be run in a certain way where it ends up like Barcelona or Real Madrid, whereby they've nothing, right? And they've no money to spend. You don't want that. And we're not being bankrolled by a nation, by an oil nation, by a country. Yeah. We're not, to be honest with you. But our net spend is fucking.
I see.
Net spend.
Jack, can you get the net spend up on that thing? Remember the net spend thing, and you have it on it, and I'm bringing in as a link because it's unbelievable. It's fucking Burnley in a better fucking. Burnley spent more money than us.
But we had championship sides outspending us, mate. Come on, championship sides. I know.
Yeah, and I'm not saying we need to spend for spend's sake, to be honest with you. But when you get to a situation whereby, we've got a central midfield partnerships or combinations that are season upon season riddled with injuries, right? Fabinho gets injured, Thiago gets injured, Keita gets injured, Henderson's getting older, he's been injured, Milner's been injured. And we don't look to start bringing somebody in, young, older, and different, right? We've got a front 3, 2 of which are going off to fucking AFCON for at least 3 to 6 games, and we know this is all coming down the line. And we buy Konate, who hasn't fucking played, right? He's played a game or 2, right? And
he played Palace and United anyway, didn't he?
Okay, let's hold on to that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This is getting good, I'll tell you that. Alan C, FSG, where depending on the Super League, well, to sell the club for big money, now they won't invest. Where's all that Nike money we heard of? I actually heard that the way they do the financial statements or something, it was actually quite good. It's coming out, when is it, January, I think, or whatever it's coming out, it's actually quite good. The Nike sales, we get 20% of the sales worldwide, commercial apparently, something like that. But it's no use unless they're buying players, is it? Or strengthening the squad, because the fans won't like it. You know what I mean? It's no use saying we're 200 million in profit.
No one's looking for spending for spend's sake, right? No one's looking for that, and I'm certainly not looking for that. However, when you see something coming up in the horizon and you haven't made allowances for these things coming up in the horizon, in terms of, listen, I'm not going to write off the centre back. That was mental, right? However, not addressing midfield, right, and just trying to bring through younger players when, and then literally not thinking about, well, what's going to happen in AFCON if we're going for league and we miss lads for 6 games. It's like there's decisions made there not to do stuff. Like it's not as if the lads have not seen this coming. Someone has seen this coming and decided, we'll be all right, we'll be grand.
I know. Listen, they're a business. That's the problem. That's the way football's gone. It is a fucking business. Of course, they've seen it coming. They'd be 2 or 3 years ahead of themselves, don't they? Like any good bloody business, and all the big companies that are in behind, the likes of Nike, a world icon business like Nike. They're all fucking well ahead of themselves. Like they do see what's coming, but what can you do about it, guys? Other than invest in a few players, what can you do and get the right players? And as we know with Klopp, you have to fit the system. You have to fit profile. You won't just pick a player off a tree and say, there you go, he can play, because it doesn't work like that. Jack, can you zoom in on that now?
You can bring a lad in. You can bring a lad in if you know he's going to take 6 months, but you bring him in and see if it takes 6 months. If you don't bring him in, there's no lad there to bring in 6 months. You know what I mean? Like, so.
No, yeah, no, yeah. But Jack, we're trying to get up the net spending. But what I can tell you is Liverpool are right down the bloody bottom, and we all know that, really, don't we? We know that. I mean, just the way it is, We're not going to stay on this much longer. We're going to have a quick chat about Stevie G to Villa, which looks on, of course. But what do you think, Keith? If it looks 90%. I know it's not a done deal, but do you think Stevie G to Villa would be a good fit?
I think it's a great fit.
Okay.
I think, listen, they've got money. He's an up-and-coming manager. I think it's risky from Aston Villa's perspective. It's a good fit from Gerrard's perspective in that he'll have money to spend. He comes back into the Premier League. None of these things are gilt-edged, No. Does it help him in terms of potentially becoming a manager for Liverpool down the line? I don't think so, to be honest with you. I think it can go one way or the other.
Yeah. No, if it turns sour for him, it might. Well, he won't be able to go.
It'll probably go one way or the other. And there's only so far he can go. So what is the success and what is the failure? Success is getting to what position. Failure is getting to what position. So, does he have to win a trophy? It does. There's a lot of different variables that come into place. But listen, from his perspective, what he's like. He's absolutely, if he gets the opportunity, he will take it, and he'll want to challenge himself.
He's a risk taker. He'll take it.
No, but he loves the challenge. When he'll challenge himself, he'll absolutely challenge himself. I just think it's risky, to be honest with you.
Personally, I think he'll do well there. I think he'll do well there if he takes it.
Yeah, I suppose the only thing about it is that they've kind of come out of a position whereby they've sold their best player, and What is the dressing room like when he gets in there in terms of, do they perceive themselves to be more of a selling club than a building club and all that kind of stuff? So he's going to have to be able to do that and manage that and get all the players. He'll get it bounced as soon as he goes in due to his stature, I suppose, as a player, and he's won titles up in Scotland. So listen, he'll probably start off quite well, to be honest with you. Does it help or hinder him in terms of potentially being a manager of Liverpool down the line? I think it's probably hinder him more so than help him. I'd much prefer somebody to come in and work under Klopp and take all of and get everything from Klopp they can and step into those shoes, similar to what we used to do with the boot room, rather than bring somebody else in. We've done that in the past. We brought in ex-players in the past with very little from the north, right? From times in Scotland with not an awful lot of experience in the Premier League, and how did that work out for us? So
quite good. Well, that's true. But look, I think it could work. As you said, it could go either way. It could go really pear-shaped from if he takes the job, and then all of a sudden there's question marks. If he can't do it at Villa, he won't do it at Liverpool. That type of thing.
As an Irishman, at least we can start talking about him again, because when he went to Rangers, we couldn't really talk about him. We couldn't even celebrate any of the successes, to be honest with you.
John Moore is a Rangers. John Moore is a Rangers.
I know he is. Apologies, John, but it is what it is. There's very little we can do about it. Very difficult as an Irishman to celebrate his success as a Rangers manager. So organise it.
Yeah, but look, he actually did a very good job at Rangers. I know it's a different league, Scottish League. It wouldn't be like the Premier League. It's not as tough, but he did a really good job at them. I think he got record points total. It was 102 points, Jack, or something like that. Unbeaten season.
Yeah,
You know
something
what I
like,
mean?
mate. Obviously, Rodgers at Celtic. It obviously, when you look at Gerrard when he was a youngster, obviously you hear those stories. He used to be sitting at the back of the school lessons in school, going, "Yeah, I'm going to be a footballer. Can't be asked." And he was so adamant that he was going to be a footballer, and he was so. When you get that level of mentality within players, he's probably got that as a manager now. He wants to be the best, and he'll do absolutely anything that will help him improve. If it doesn't work at Aston Villa, he's got that attitude to go somewhere else if it doesn't, and then create his craft again and then start from there. If it means having to go back to Rangers. But yeah, it's going to be intriguing, as we just discussed. It's going to be massive in the next 5 years. We will get a bigger picture. Is Jürgen going to sign a new deal? Hopefully he does, but it would allow Gerrard a lot more time. And if it all is going well at Aston Villa, you never know. It could play into our hands in reality when hopefully Jürgen does win a couple of titles the next couple of years, signs a new deal. And then, but for me, I've always felt, don't know how you feel, lads, and everyone in chat, Pep Linders, as Keith alluded to, it's always about integrating someone.
I think Pep Linders is the natural succession. As we just said, succession there with in-house succession. What Liverpool used to do it, Keith. We know that in the 70s and 80s. It's in-house succession. They didn't bring anybody in. They have guys there already now, like in a big company, as me and Keith were talking about earlier on. In a big multinational company, like Liverpool, a big multicultural, multinational place. You've guys that know the people, know the tea lady. You know what I mean? They know what they want for breakfast. They know everything about the place and just keep it going nicely. Now, it worked years ago for Liverpool in the 70s and 80s when we were the top team. It might be a bit different in this business world, but all the top businesses do it, don't you, Keith?
Yeah, to be honest with you, CEO succession is a massive thing. Yeah. It's a massive thing in large organizations, and you groom and you bring through the best. You don't be necessarily always bringing in, unless you want to rip stuff up and go again and focus on different areas. Well, then you'll bring in a different CEO. However, if you just want to keep the status quo, you will typically try and promote from within, and keep that going. And we did it for years. Listen, it was a completely different era. It's not the same, to be honest with different you now. World. However, in terms of the way we play football, in terms of the ethos of the of the football club, and in terms of the relationship with the fans, all of that stuff lends towards succession as opposed to bringing in somebody else new who'll want to install their own methodologies and their own way of running things. Bring somebody through and keep it going. It does feel like we would need to do that as opposed to bringing somebody else in. But the manager of the football club looks after the playing side of things, and then you've got so many other people who are involved who look after all other aspects of the football club from a commercial perspective, because it's not just a football team anymore. It's a massive global organization. So it's slightly different. So I listen, across the board, I'd be amazed if there's not different types of succession plans that are in place for the people who run the organization. The frustration is that the same succession plan doesn't seem to be in place for the playing staff for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. I mean, look, hopefully something will happen in January. We just don't know. And the way Liverpool have been going in the last 2-3 seasons, I wouldn't hold out a huge amount of hopes of anything major happening in the transfer window this January. Tom May, I think it's a great move for Gerrard. The club has got a lot of history, a really good squad, plus it'll give him some Premier League experience. Might take time for him to get his tactics right. Oh, yeah, well, look, it can go either way, as we just said, guys. It can go either way. You know what I mean?
He's played well in Europe, though, hasn't he? With Rangers. I know last season when he won the Scottish League anyway, they were playing well. Obviously, this year it hasn't worked that well in Europe, but I think he's not got the biggest budget at Rangers, has he? I think he'll have a massively improved. Aston Villa have got huge ambitions for that football club, and if Gerrard said, "Give me 100 million," pretty sure it'd be under the understanding of. I think they've got one of the richest owners in the Premier League. I think Aston Villa. So,
but I mean, he's not going to take the job unless he gets some sort of thing that he can get to spend a few quid in January, is he? He's not going to take.
He's probably got like 5 million, probably less than 5 million at Rangers, and he'll come into Aston Villa, and the squad as the battered us 7-2. So obviously, yes, to a Jack Grealish away.
4 deflected goals.
Right. And adds in goal.
The other thing as well is like, how much materially has the club changed across the board from when Gerrard was there, right? And we kind of look at Gerrard and think, right, he's not that long out of the club, but since Klopp has come into the club, it's changed a lot, right? There's a huge amount of change there.
Changes.
So whoever you want to come in, you want them to embrace, whatever has been instilled in the club since Klopp came in, because across the board, outside of some really poor fucking decisions at board level, it's all good, right? Now, and I know he probably stays very well in touch with everybody and the club and has an idea of how.
I think he just be in touch with Klopp. I think he's in touch with Klopp.
Yeah, but he's not there every day. He's not there every day, right?
And we've a new training ground, which he was never in, because Melwood would have been where he would have came up through. Yeah. We've got Kirby now, you know what I mean?
So whatever about the next one, right? And the next one probably should be somebody who's there already. Whatever about the next one after the next one, that's maybe slightly different, right? But certainly the next one, from my perspective, can't believe we're fucking talking about after Klopp, to be honest with you.
Well, listen,
I'm not going to sleep tonight now on this. Thanks very much.
It's like that Netflix show, Succession. That's what we're talking about, Succession.
It was bad enough watching the bloody when Shankly retired or left. And I think there was a video on YouTube of, obviously, reporters going around Liverpool. Obviously, half the people didn't even know. You were like, what?
Yeah.
There was no TikTok boys around.
Yeah, there's definitely no TikTok.
No fucking phones, for fuck's sake. There's no mobile phones. You know what I mean? Guys, we're going to go now in a minute, but I really enjoyed that chat. As I say, we're not FSG hours by any stretch of the bloody imagination, but look, we will call them out when they make. We'll call them out when they make mistakes, and they've made a few mistakes in the transfer window. The last 2 transfer windows, in particular, I think, especially the last 2. Let's get that bleeding Salah. I mean, if Salah doesn't sign the contract bids,
and the Super League, Dave, as well. Don't forget that.
What?
And the Super League. The Super League as well. Yeah, don't forget
the furloughs, the Super Leagues. Look. We know. Listen, I
wonder at what point in time in January, if all the lads fuck off to AFCON, we throw all of our eggs into the Champions League basket. I'll leave that
It probably depends if we're still in the race, Keith. Lads, I enjoyed that. Keith at Eaton Ryan on Twitter. Jack Mac LFC. Stay safe. A lot more podcasts to come. Thanks for the chat, guys.
Talk to you soon, lads.
Cheers, boys.